So... Hello! We're almost on time. Good evening. And this is the War Room. We're back. Jimmy's still got vocal cords somehow.
I could tell you one time, don't want it with us.
We surprisingly are going to be able to do what we have set out to do every week since we began this.
Go grab your guns.
I'll tell you after the
I'll
intro.
tell you one time, this day belongs to Washington.
Sorry, that never gets old for me. I am going to have to condense this a bit though, aren't I? I bet some of you guys just go straight to the 3-minute mark. If you ever catch us on the replay. This is the best part here. But I'll spare you the rest of it. Anyway, as I was saying, hello, good evening, and welcome back to the War Room. This is our weekly coverage of Russia's, well, frankly, illegal incursion into the Ukraine. And that guy in the background, he's telling us everything is okay, comrade. Everything is okay. Or if you ever watch the movie Triple X, everything's fine within the vodka. Anyway, I'm just going to get straight into it so that way I don't drag this out for too long because I have a plan tonight. So my co-hosts are Mikhail Naitstraitsky and Scott P79. So good evening to both of you. I bet you thought I was going to do this long, dragged out intro. Haha, wrong. Anyway, let's see. What do I want to get into before we start the stories of the day? Nutsack Neck Nancy went on her little field trip into Asia this week, essentially stoking the fires of a potential Far Eastern front of a potential Third World War. How about that for starters? While her husband's DUI is getting whitewashed, and while she slurs her words publicly speaking in front of the Taiwanese president. Remember, this is the best we could do. This is the best we had to offer on a geopolitical scale. How stupid do we look right now? Anyway.
Oh, we could go on and on about that, but let's save that for the
Sure, because you had a good story that you're going to share. We'll get into that towards the end here, because surprisingly enough, we are going to get you out of here within an hour or so. Not
maybe an hour
too
and a
much
half.
longer. Yeah, not too much longer than that, because truth be told, once I took all the human interest stories out and the opinion stories out, there wasn't a whole lot to cover. But what we do have to cover is pretty poignant.
It seems a lot of the fighting is still going on, but it's slowing down.
Oh, not quite. You'll see. I'll show you.
Okay.
So I guess let's just get right into it. So this week we're covering days 157 through 163, which would be today. 157 would be Saturday from last week. So we'll give you the week in review play-by-play of the last week. So yeah, let me go ahead and say hello to the chat. So good evening to both of you, Shady Hill and HVS. And if you catch us on the replays, that's cool too. I know it's Friday night, people have things to do, and there's a lot of other shows running. So for posterity, good evening to any one of you who caught this later. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get straight into it because we all got stuff to do. My first story starts on Saturday, and I start with this photo here. And the story reads as follows. The Ukrainian military claimed on Saturday that it had killed a substantial number of Russian soldiers and destroyed 2 ammo dumps in the fighting in the Kherson region. Kherson region is the center of Kyiv's counteroffensive in the south and a crucial part of Moscow's supply lines. It was the first major town captured by the Russians following the start of their war in late February. Ukraine's Southern Command said that more than 100 Russian fighters had been killed and that 7 tanks had been destroyed during the fighting Friday in the Kherson region. So, for those of you who keep track of the scroller, what you're getting there is the week-over-week changes. So, they're saying 7 tanks were knocked out just in that one day, which is obviously far less than the number I have posted. So, the numbers in the scroller are as of today's statistics. So some of these are going to be a little out of date in the stories we read off. Anyhow, the first deputy head of the Kherson Regional Council, Yuri Sobolevsky, told residents of the region to stay clear of Russia's ammunition dumps. Probably because they were going to blow up. The Ukrainian army is pouring it on against the Russians, and this is only the beginning, Sobolevsky wrote on Telegram. Kherson Regional Governor Dmitro Butry said that the Berislav district, which is across the river northwest of the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant, was also particularly damaged. In some villages, not a single home had been left intact. All infrastructure has been destroyed. People are living in the cellars. The UK Defense Minister said in a tweet that Russian forces have likely established 2 pontoon bridges and a ferry system in the Kherson region in response to nearby bridges being damaged in recent strikes. Ukraine's Southern Command said...
With a Y.
Huh?
With a Y.
With a Y. Sorry, I left that out. Terry joined us. Okay, so let's see. Ukraine's Southern Command said rail traffic to Kherson over the Dnipro River had been cut. I don't know how to pronounce the D or not. I've heard it both ways.
I've heard it also spelled with it's spelled as or pronounced Dnipro.
That's usually the way I do it. Which could further isolate the Russian military west of the river from reaching supplies in Crimea and the east. Long-range missile systems supplied by the West have been used by Ukraine to impose damage on 3 bridges across the Dnipro River in recent weeks, cutting off the Kherson region. As a result of fire establishing control over the main transport links in the occupied territory, it has been established that the traffic over the rail bridge crossing the Dnipro is not possible. This came from Ukraine's Southern Command. Let's see. HVS is talking about Oahu's coal-fired power plant. They're shutting down. They received their last coal shipment to the island to be replaced by energy storage battery station, which will then be powered by coal and now costs 5 times more. Yeah, you guys should probably stand up and talk about how ERCOT worked in Texas 2 years ago and 7 people died because of the Green New Deal after they shut down the natural gas and coal plants in the state and shut down one of the reactors. That worked out real well.
But
Did you see my response, Sean?
I did.
Nuclear energy is totally green energy.
It is, because the only thing that comes out of the cooling towers is water vapor. Imagine that.
It just has that nasty, highly radioactive byproduct.
It's no problem. Just put them in barrels and, I don't want to tangent because then the show will take 4 hours. But just in short, I know why we don't. Well, I used to have this theory. I'm like, if we have garbage and waste, why don't we just put them on barges and then shoot them off into the sun and they'll get incinerated before they even reach the sun?
Because you know how incredibly dangerous it is to launch nuclear waste on a freaking rocket?
Well, yeah, that's what they're worried about. So you do it from... That's why you do it from...
If said rocket explodes mid-flight, now you have radioactivity raining down on anything underneath and in the upper atmosphere.
We'll just launch them from North Korea.
Well, the problem is, if it gets in the upper atmosphere, it's going to rain down on the whole globe.
We'll do it from Antarctica. No, the real reason, like garbage, not just... And
it's ridiculously expensive.
Not just nuclear stuff. I'm talking garbage, right? Why didn't we do it? Simple. Because recycling. I know that sounds
Well,
weird.
cost.
No,
Look,
recycling. Think
look
about
up
it.
what it costs to launch 1 pound of anything into orbit.
That's not my point. We
It's
don't
like
throw things away.
$27,000 a pound.
Right, but the thing is we don't throw things away, because if we did, it would be gone forever, which means we can't reuse it. If we bury things and leave it here, somebody else will figure out what to do with it 1,000 years from now. But if we sent
Yep.
everything off to the sun, the Earth would be cored like an apple, and there'd be nothing left. Then we definitely would go extinct. That's my theory. Anyway, you're right about the cost of sending everything up, though. Absolutely. So instead, we'll take nuclear waste in the barrels, and we'll just drop them into active volcanoes. Incinerate it. Gone.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. Whatever. Fuck it. Moving on.
HBS wants to know if if the Russians are still in charge of the Ukrainian nuclear power plant.
They used to be in charge of the ones in the north. They're not. Then they attacked Zaporizhia, and I think they realized that they didn't know what the hell they were doing, so they sort of abandoned it back to Ukrainian control. And then I think the head of the IAEA had released a statement, which I didn't use in today's stories, by the way, but they released a statement saying that one of the reactors in Zaporizhia is like critical, meaning maybe things aren't doing so good there. So they're not in charge of it anymore, but they were definitely in charge of fucking it up.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. For sure. All right. So that was Saturday's story. Like I said, we're going to get through these quickly. I'm already on Sunday, day 158, July 31st. And this story goes, let's see here. Ukrainian President Zelensky announced Saturday evening, leading into Sunday, a mandatory evacuation for residents of the country's eastern Donetsk region amid intense fighting on the ongoing war with Russia. So he made a mandatory get the hell out of there. The president said that the more people leave the Donetsk region now, the fewer people the Russian army will have time to kill. Makes sense. He noted that those who do leave would be compensated. Zelensky also said in his address that the hundreds of thousands of people still occupying combat zones in the larger Donbass region should leave as well. Donbass includes Donetsk and Luhansk. Many refuse to leave, but it still needs to be done, he says. If you have the opportunity to leave, please talk to those who still remain in the combat zones in the Donbass. Please convince them that it's necessary to leave. According to Ukrainian media, Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk said that the evacuation had to take place prior to the start of winter because the region's natural gas supplies have been destroyed. But former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine John Herbst said that the evacuation may have more to do with the anticipation of more fierce fighting instead of actual fuel shortages. I don't know why Zelensky issued the call, he says. What I do know is that there has been fierce fighting in Donetsk. The Russians took neighboring Luhansk several weeks ago. I expect further fierce fighting in Donetsk. So, the Ukrainian military claimed earlier on Saturday that more than 100 Russian soldiers were killed, 7 tanks were knocked out, and the Kherson region is sort of the center of Kyiv's counteroffensive.
Right.
Ukraine's Southern Command said that rail traffic to Kherson over the Dnipro River had been cut, which could further isolate the Russian military west of the river from reaching supplies in Crimea in the east. So, overlap between the last story. Long-range missile systems supplied by the West have been used by Ukraine to impose damage on 3 bridges across the Dnipro River in recent weeks, cutting off Kherson completely. As a result of... Oh, that's the same story. That's parts of the same story. But I'll just read it anyway. As a result
It seems like they bleed together.
They do. A lot of these do. As a result of fire establishing control over the main transport links in the occupied territory, it has been established that traffic over the rail bridge crossing the Dnipro is no longer possible. Kherson Regional Governor Dmitry Butry said that the Berislav district, which is across the river northwest of the Kakova hydroelectric power plant, was also damaged. So, yeah, that was the overlap part. Butry said that fighting was continuing in many parts of the Kherson region. So, basically, Zelensky's saying, look, if you don't need to be there, get out, because that'll give the Russians less people to kill and slaughter, which means I don't have to accuse them of war crimes as much, but it also leaves the battlefront wide open for him to use much more aggressive counteroffensive tactics, right? So if there's
Right.
no civilians to worry about, he can carpet bomb the living shit out of it because he knows that none of his people are there. Or he could, I don't know, gas it.
Or he could start hitting it with long-range rocket artillery provided
Yes,
by the United States.
exactly.
Mm.
So that's a good call. Like, it should have been done sooner, but obviously people are like, well, it should be done before winter because there's no natural gas, which means people will freeze to death.
Well,
Get
they
the
still got wood.
fuck out of there. Get out of there now. Right meow.
Right now, right now.
Right meow, right meow. Anyway, moving on. Monday. See? We can do this quick. August
Wow.
1st, day 159. Kind of a positive story
159.
here. Here's a photo. The first ship carrying Ukrainian grain left the port of Odessa Monday under an internationally brokered deal that is expected to release large stores of Ukrainian crops to foreign markets amid a global food crisis. The Sierra Leone flagged cargo ship Razoni left Odessa for Lebanon, Turkey's defense ministry says. A statement from the Razoni is expected to reach Istanbul on Tuesday. It will then be inspected before being allowed to continue its journey. So they're basically going to stop in Istanbul. They're going to check to make sure that there's no, Lusitania-like munitions in the hold. And then...
There never was in Lusitania.
Oh, bullshit.
Shh. No.
Shh.
That's the story.
Never mind those crates of 303 British cartridges that are strewn across the wreck. Shh. Anyway.
Don't exist.
They don't exist.
They don't
There's
exist.
also no crystal meth in the big buckets of chicken batter from Los Pollos Hermanos, but whatever.
Well, that you know that about that more than I would.
I rolled the R on that beautifully. Anyway,
Spoken like a true honorary Mexican.
yes, yeah. You stay in
time
the
did you
the region long enough, you pick up a few things.
Right.
Okay, so let's see. Where did I leave that off? Lebanon is currently in a financial crisis. You don't say.
You don't say.
A 2020 explosion at its main port in Beirut shattered its capital city and destroyed grain silos there. Oh, I remember that. Yeah, like there was this huge crater. Part of which collapsed following the weeks-long fire just Sunday. Today, Ukraine, together with partners, is taking another step towards preventing world hunger, said Alexander Kubrikov, the Ukrainian Minister of Infrastructure. He said it would also help Ukraine. Unlocking ports will provide at least $1 billion in foreign exchange revenue to the economy and an opportunity for the agricultural sector to plan for next year, Kubrikov says. Russia and Ukraine signed separate agreements with Turkey and the UN. Under the agreements, Russia agreed not to attack Ukrainian naval vessels or port infrastructure as Ukraine attempts to offload 22 million tons of grain to vulnerable and developing nations from Odessa, Kronomorsk, and Yuzhny. The deals will also allow Russia to export grain and fertilizers. However, Russia hit Odessa with a missile strike Saturday, with a Y, followed by several attacks just days later in the Odessa coastal towns of Yuzhny and Zatoka. That's all I got for that one. Sorry, I stopped because I was reading HVS talking about running tweakers off.
Did he finally get that new piece of land he wanted?
Yes. I think the best thing
Awesome.
you could do is just get a paintball rifle and just start popping tweakers with, frozen paintballs. They'll get the message real fast.
Ooh,
And
those
you'd be
hurt.
compliant.
Those really hurt.
Anyway, moving on. And this is also, I believe, this is also a Monday story. There you go. And it's got the tweet there that I had to sort of edit so it fits in the frame. U.S. officials announced another $550 million in military aid that will be sent to Ukraine, including 75,000 rounds of 155mm artillery ammunition and additional ammunition for the HIMARS systems. 4 more HIMARS, which have a longer range and are more precise than older artillery Soviet air rocket systems, arrived in Ukraine on Monday morning. We have proven to be smart operators of this weapon. This came from Ukrainian's Defense Minister Alexei Reznikov. Ukrainian forces have used the weapon systems to destroy at least 50 Russian ammunition depots since June. In late July, Ukrainians used HIMARS to damage the Antonovsky Bridge, a key crossing that connects Russian forces in the occupied Kherson region to the Crimean Peninsula. The Ukrainians are spending a lot of time striking targets like ammunition supplies and other logistical supplies. Command and control, a senior U.S. military official said on a background call with reporters last month. Let's see. All of those things have a direct impact on the ability to conduct operations on the front line. So I would say yes. Although they're not shooting the HIMARS at the front lines, they're having a very significant effect on them. The Biden
Yeah,
administration,
they're making use of them.
Oh yeah. The Biden administration has sent more than $8 billion in security assistance to Ukraine since Russia invaded, including anti-tank Javelin missiles, anti-aircraft Stinger missiles, drones, and thousands of small arms. So, I'm kind of curious. Is Castle Doctrine a thing in Hawaii? Because you could have just filled them in.
Probably not, considering they don't even issue concealed carry permits in Hawaii.
I thought
No,
they
but
have
they
to
got
now.
They have to now because of the Bruin decision.
No, they're fucking around.
Oh, that's right. Injunctions, right?
Right.
No, they're fucking around with the requirements. So
Oh,
they can't issue any.
right. That's right. You're right. We talked about that.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. The Warsaw Patriot has arrived. He is not here yet, but he'll be here soon. He has a story that he wants to share with us. I think about the Polish tanks thing. So, oops, I just spoiled it and stole his thunder. Anyway.
No.
Nah, I'll let him describe it though. Anyway, moving on. Tuesday. See that? We're getting through this. Tuesday, August 2nd, day 160.
Tuesday night, 9 o'clock.
And there was no hit or miss because
we did it Wednesday.
But the reason, which I'm making up the reason right now, is because of this story.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I have given you a photo. And I called it Putin's Wet Dream, 1963 edition.
Ooh.
So many of you are alt-tabbing going, I need to see what this looks like. I can tell you right now, it's not Vanessa Hudgens stripping. Although I did get to see that quite a bit today because I'm editing Jimmy's new video.
Oh, so they're not still going off about Elizabeth Hurley.
Oh, no. As soon as I mentioned Vanessa Hudgens, that conversation shifted immediately. God, lovely girl. Anyway, Putin's wet dream. A top Russian security official on Monday evening allegedly called for the occupation of Georgia following the liberation of Kyiv, though Russian officials claim the telegram message was, quote, a hacked post. In a post that was purportedly up for just 10 minutes before being deleted, the account of Deputy Chairman of the Security Council, remember, they're masters of long titles. So let me start this one over. Deputy Chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation. Wait till you hear the name of who that is. Dmitry Medvedev. Does that sound familiar?
Isn't he the guy who's been switching off with Putin?
Yes, He used to be the Prime Minister and President of Russia. Imagine that. Allegedly issued one of the most blatant calls for the reunification of the Soviet Union since the war in the Ukraine began. You want to talk about a lapdog? I think Medvedev may be the only person in the world with knee pads thicker than Kamala Harris's. Just saying. No.
He might have spent some time in Siberia.
He's had his lips fully and firmly pressed against the shaft of Putin for over 20 years.
Ooh.
Anyway.
Yeah, it just means he's built up calluses, though.
Calloused lips sink ships, sir.
Wow.
No, I meant on his knees.
Anyway, damn it, I lost my place. Oh yeah. After the liberation of Kyiv and all the territories of Little... Did he really write that? Oh my god. Okay, let me start over. After the liberation of Kyiv and all the territories of Little Russia, From the groups of nationalists who preach their invented Ukrainianness, Russia will become united once again, Medvedev allegedly said, according to Ukrainian news outlet Pravda. After that, we will go on to the next campaign to restore our borders of our motherland. That's
For
pretty
our glorious union.
brazen. Yeah, I should have did that in the accent. The
The
Post reportedly went on to claim that Georgia has never existed before its reunification with the Russian Empire in 1801, and that the Central Asian nation of Kazakhstan is nothing more than an artificial state. The post was deleted, and according to a spokesman for Medvedev, the message was allegedly posted by hackers. Those who hacked his page yesterday will be dealt with by the administration of the Here comes another title. They will be dealt with by the administration of the social network. And it's what is appropriate. A spokesman reportedly told Russia-owned news outlet RIA Novosti. Medvedev does not appear to have publicly commented on the post. Russia is engaged in the most brutal war in Europe since World War II. Wait, is that all? Yeah, it's the same story. Okay. But Russian President Vladimir Putin has refused to refer to his invasion as anything other than a special military operation. The Kremlin chief has not formally detailed his actual intention in Ukraine, and has instead alleged Russia is denazifying its southern neighbor. Claims that Ukraine and Western nations have flatly rejected. Though in June, Putin once again drew international attention following comments he made comparing himself to Tsar Peter the Great. In a tribute to the 350th anniversary of the Tsar's birth, Putin drew comparisons between his offensive in Ukraine to the expansion of Russia carried out under Peter the Great. Apparently, it also fell to us to return and strengthen Russia. And if we proceed from the fact that these basic values form the basis of our existence, we will certainly succeed in solving the tasks that we face. Is that not political word salad bullshit? Peter the Great...
here's a better question.
He's good at it. Peter the
Where
Great...
did they invade first?
I don't know. Who invaded?
Where did Peter the Great invade?
I don't know. He didn't say. I'm not up on Russian history, sorry.
I would assume it was a foreign country.
Well, yes. Peter the Great waged the Great Northern War for 21 years, Putin said. You get the impression that by fighting Sweden... there you go. Now you know your answer. You get the impression that by fighting Sweden, he was grabbing something. He wasn't taking anything. He was taking it back, he added. Russian officials have also signaled Moldova could be next in its plans for Russian expansion. Side fucking bar. Do you guys remember a couple of months ago I told you that was going to happen?
Yeah,
Pwnery got it right.
We aren't arguing with you. You know
once
this, right?
Ukraine was done, the next thing was going to be, and I said this very clearly, go back and watch the episodes if you have to. I said Georgia, South Ossetia, and Moldova are just going to collapse overnight. And Moldova is going to collapse just because they're poor. They, I think...
They figure they make more money being part of them than not.
I think the Moldovan national flag is your photograph. Sorry, I had to go there.
Why my photograph?
Quit, because they all think like poors. I'm just kidding.
Oh.
I'm kidding. Moldova's just poor. They don't... 55% of their IT industry vanished overnight, 2 years ago. They're all broke. They don't have a military force that can do anything. They don't have any munitions. So, when Russia came over there, they said, we're going to put 9,000 troops on your border with Ukraine. There's nothing you can do about it. What was Moldova's response? Look, just don't fucking break the dishes. They're the only ones we've got. And I always said that as a joke, but it was the truth. They said, just don't wreck our country. You can stay there, just leave us alone. And then the day that the war began, those 9,000 troops stepped across the border into southwest Ukraine. That happened immediately after the Russians had left Moldova. Moldova announced, we will take your refugees. We have jobs here. We have whatever you want. We have schools. Come on over. And then, like, Ukrainians were like, yo, what the fuck? You just had these Russians in. Look, we didn't have a choice, okay? They were going to wreck our only plates that we had left to eat off of. Just give us a break, okay? We're going to let you come in. That's kind of what their attitude was. So, yeah, naturally, if Russia takes over Ukraine, Moldova's just going to surrender. They're going to be like, look, we can't afford to rebuild this country. And I'm not saying that to be insulting. They really can't. They would be destitute and then starving. And do you think Russia's going to do a damn thing for them? No. They just wanted the territory. They'll just
And remember,
eradicate the people.
Bulgaria will cease to be a country and be part of Russia again.
So
Well-
apparently, Peter the Great acquired Estonia, Latvia, Finland,
The Baltic states.
and parts of Turkey, and attacked the Swedish.
I'm sure Erdogan wasn't very pleased with that speech then.
So these countries were never really originally part of Russia.
Well, yeah, but they claim
Yep.
it is. Anyway, that map that I've got there on the screen, it shows you all the countries. Like Moldova is right there on the edge of the Ukraine, and then yeah, all the Baltic states and all the Istans.
Yep.
And South Ossetia and Georgia, like all of them. Warsaw's going to bed. That's fine. I know you didn't want to read your story. I get it. It's cool though.
You took the wind out of his sails.
It's fine. It's because
Yeah.
I spoiled his story. Sorry. It's fine though. You get yourself some rest. Moving on. Wednesday, August 3rd, day 161. Look, we're more than halfway through and we're not even in. We're half an hour in. We're going to make the hour. Yes.
No, we're not.
Not unless you go on a tangent.
Oh, we will go on a
I'm
tangent.
pretty good at that, huh? All right.
Yes,
Anyway.
you are.
Oh, okay. I've got a joke built into this story.
We aim to
So-
misbehave.
Anyway, I'm going to start with this picture, but just keep watching it because I'm going to add something to it shortly as I start to read this. Ukrainian forces have taken out a Russian ammunition railway connecting Kherson to Crimea and further blocking Russian supply lines, the UK Ministry of Defense detailed on Wednesday. The intelligence update said that Russian forces would likely be able to repair the line that logistically connects occupying forces in the south to more robust supplies on the Crimean Peninsula, and noted that it will remain a vulnerability. Russia has constructed at least 2 pontoon ferry crossings capable of transporting civilians, vehicles, and supplies to its forces after Ukrainian troops damaged the strategically important Antonovsky Bridge last week using U.S.-supported HIMARS.
Surprise, surprise.
You see what they're doing here.
You see what I just did? Fighting in Kherson has identified in recent weeks as Ukrainian forces make advances to push out Russian troops from what the UK Defense Ministry described as the most politically significant population center occupied by Russia. It is likely we will see an increase in civilians attempting to flee Kherson and the surrounding area as hostilities continue and food shortages worsen, the ministry said Wednesday. Fleeing civilians will likely increase pressure on Kherson transport routes and force Moscow to impose circulation restrictions, British intelligence suggested. On Tuesday, regional authorities said Ukrainian troops had retaken 53 settlements in the region, which has been occupied since early March, as Kyiv pushes forward with a large-scale offensive in the south. Repelling Russian forces from Kherson would be a major win for Ukraine, as the region sits in the first line of defense across the Dnieper River and separates western and southern Ukraine from the Crimean Peninsula, which Russia has occupied since 2014. However, as Ukraine makes advances west of the Dnieper River, forces fighting in the Donbas region north of Crimea continue to endure hellish conditions. President Zelensky said the battlefield situation is just hell in the Donbas, despite U.S.-supplied heavy artillery systems. The word HIMARS has become almost synonymous with the word justice for our country, and the Ukrainian Defense Forces will do everything to ensure that the occupiers experience more and more painful losses every week thanks to these very effective systems, Zelensky said in his nightly address Tuesday. We still cannot completely break the advantage of the Russian army in artillery and in manpower. And this is very tangible in the battles, especially in Donbass, he continued. It's just hell there. That's like the theme. It can't even be described in words, he added. The UK Defense Ministry assesses that Russian forces control roughly all the Luhansk region in the northern Donbass, while Donetsk is still fiercely contested with Russia occupying about half the region. Anyway, let me get Arnold off the screen. I just thought you guys would find that a little funny. Moving on.
Yeah.
And I think this one's pretty graphic. So if you have a weak constitution, man the fuck up. Seriously, because war's hell. So I've highlighted 3 things in these pictures because it is what they are. Ukrainian President Zelensky has called on Nato and the international community to declare Russia a terrorist state following the missile strike on a detention center that killed 50 Ukrainian prisoners of war last week. Those circles are charred corpses of Ukrainian POWs, by the way. On Tuesday, Zelensky met with the head of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. Oh my God, I've never seen this name before. I think it's Zbigniew Rau and NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg in Kyiv, and said he paid special attention to the issue of our prisoners of war kept by Russia. In particular, the Russian terrorist attack on Olenivka, which must be the ultimate argument for all civilized countries of the world to officially recognize Russia as a terrorist state. Zelensky said this in his nightly address. Trying to translate this in real time is actually kind of hard. Isn't this a sufficiently brutal and obvious act of terrorism, he asks. Zelensky's outrage stems from a missile strike that had hit a Russian detention center holding Ukrainian POWs outside of Donetsk Friday. Russia immediately attempted to lay the blame on Ukrainian forces and claimed that U.S.-supplied HIMARS were behind the attack. Ukrainian officials denied the accusation, with one saying that this was a brutal execution of POWs. Ukraine's defense ministry later confirmed that the armed forces of Ukraine had not launched any missiles or artillery strikes in the entire settlement of Olenivka. That's pretty good. Ukraine claimed that some 40 Ukrainian soldiers were killed, with another 75 injured, though Russia reportedly released a list of 53 Ukrainian soldiers killed and 73 in the attack that appeared to only hit the housing area where the POWs were held. Sidebar. Do you know why the Russians had those exact numbers? Because they had them on file. And then when they executed them, they knew exactly how many were dead, because they knew exactly how many were in there. If they didn't just implicate themselves now, duh. Anyway, end sidebar. Exact details surrounding the attack remain unclear, largely due to Russia's refusal to allow for the International Committee of the Red Cross to regain access to the site, because they're too busy mopping up the evidence. The ICRC would not respond for most of the news outlets' questions, multiple outlets, but pointed to comments that it made Wednesday. We learned about the alleged attack on Friday of the 29th of July, at which point we immediately requested access to the Olenivka penal facility. Penal facility.
Now.
Penal, not penile. And to all places where victims are being treated or where the bodies may have been transferred, as well as to facilities where other POWs may have been moved to, the ICRC had said. Oh, thanks, GMG. As of yet...
HBS is on a roll tonight.
He is.
As of yet... That's great.
Oh, yeah. As of yet, we have not been granted access to the POWs affected by the attack, Nor do we have security guarantees to carry out this visit, it added, pointing out that access to POWs is mandated under the Geneva Convention. Sidebar. Every belligerent nation during a war ignores the Geneva Convention. So why does this surprise you?
Oh, except for the United States.
Well, right, but we're not the belligerent nation.
We
We're
never
not the
are.
attacker.
No, but look at how we invaded Iraq. We didn't violate the Geneva Convention then.
When I hear the words Iraq, I think of that old patch with the 3 bombs that say, we're going to free the shit out of you. So I can't comment on that.
Well, Afghanistan.
When I hear the words Iraq, I remember that song. The bomb Iraq.
Bomb, 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 Iran. Yeah, that one?
Yeah, that one, yeah.
Yeah.
They're next on the list, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, they did.
Yeah, and our justification would be because you sold UAVs to Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
No, it's because they're trying to develop nuclear weapons.
Oh, they're not developing shit. Are you kidding? Russians went over there to get UAVs. The Iranians very willingly gave them over 780 of them.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think Russia paid them with? Here, have a nuke.
No.
Yeah.
No, Russia's not that stupid.
No, it's an ally. Like,
for now.
Look.
They're an ally of convenience.
No, look. Iran is Antifa. And Russia holding the nuke as payment is the Yankee Marshal going, I'm your ally! I'm your ally!
Don't hit me, I'm your ally!
Telling you, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, they have a nuke. I'm convinced they have a nuke. And when they use it,
good,
because they
let
will,
them use it.
What they will, the IAEA will cease to exist because it will be discredited out of existence by people like me going, you fucking assholes, we told you that you can't stop them. But now it's too late. Now you can't put Genie back in the fucking bottle. So the IAEA will be, I hope they're just executed, honestly.
The other byproduct of them using a nuke, their entire country is going to be turned to glass.
Yeah, but
they may have one nuke. Israel has about 150.
See, that's the
and
thing.
Where do you think they're all aimed?
Got one. I don't think they got one. 780 UAVs are expensive.
Yeah. And Russia could say, we'll give you an IOU
Russia
has
you more nuclear weapons than any other nation in the world. Because they don't disarm theirs like we do.
No.
Now, we probably don't disarm as many as we say we do. But they have a lot of them, Russia. And they can pay them.
Here's a dirty little secret that you may or may not know.
Mm-hmm.
Under the START treaties, a lot of their nukes were brought to the United States and reprocessed to fuel our nuclear power.
Okay. But who's to say that they just, scratched a couple lines off the ledger?
Oh, absolutely. There's like 20 or 30.
Like, for every one they gave us, they probably had 30 buried in a mountain saying, hey, they don't know about these.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, we're probably doing the same thing, right? Or at least that's the assumption. Either way, right? Even if that happens, how fucked would Israel be? Because, like you said, right? Iran would be glassed. How many of their missiles did they hit? Like the Golan
doesn't matter
first. No, but it would be too late to do anything about it afterwards. The whole idea about no nukes to Iran was to prevent that, because
Israel has shuffled their nukes around. They've taken a page out of our book.
That I know, but the point is if Russia was to use, if Iran was going to use them, they would just vomit all of them in one shot. Because they just want to eradicate Israel. That's their goal. And once they just shotgun everything they got, okay, the Iron Dome might get a few of them. But like you said, radioactive fallout will rain down on the whole area. Nobody wins in that situation. except Iran. Even if they're wiped
No.
off the face of the earth, they'll say, we died doing what we set out to do. And that's what history will
No, they will
remember.
lose because there'll be none of them left.
It doesn't matter. That's suicide bombers work on the same premise. As long as they did set out their goal, they don't care if they die.
Because apparently Israel has taken a page out of our book with our nuclear triad
Yes.
and has put nukes on their subs.
It's fine.
Yeah,
My
So-
point still stands.
You might
If-
wipe Israel out. Israel's still going to be able to wipe you out.
Yeah.
It's fine, but there's nothing left after.
And do not think for a second they would not fucking push that button.
Look, you're trying to tell me that you're trying to tell me that Israel's the Navy, and I'm trying to tell you that Iran is Lieutenant Commander Tom Dodge. Even though we're dead, we still won. Har, har, har.
No, because
They
you know what's going
fired
to
their
happen.
2 fish, and they were running hot, straight, and normal. They
Israel's
still
not
blew
going
up
to
the
just
boat.
launch at Iran.
Well, if
Israel's
Iran...
going to take everybody with them, and they all know it.
So, once again, nobody wins.
So,
Exactly. You know, Mecca, goodbye.
so
That
Sean,
big black building, goodbye.
I don't...
get Christmas
think-
lights and every other light you can think of and put it on the conning tower.
Huh? Oh, I want you to take this light and get up on that periscope and tape this light up to the top
Oh.
of that. Why me?
The
Because you're the
other-
only athlete I got.
The other Arab nations that are actually friendly towards Israel will not let Iran do it. They will tell them,
You
if
are
you do
so
that-
naive to the madness of Iranian people.
No, it's not the Iranian people. It's a fucking tiny percentage of religious fucking nuts.
Okay, you're naive to those nuts then. Never ever underestimate a determined, belligerent psychopath.
Never underestimate the fear of being wiped off the face of the planet.
They don't care, Scott. That's what jihad is. Don't you get it? Their body is a temporary vessel to them. If they dirty bombed, if they dirty bombed anywhere and they killed 1,000 people for that one guy is going to paradise in his estimation. And
You also
the
have
people
to
who
take
sent
into
him
effect
there will claim victory.
You also have to take.
And it's a
into
hollow
account
victory,
that
'cause
the
they don't win.
Iranians-
No, the guy who died did exactly what he set off to do. Mission accomplished.
You guys are forgetting one thing. The Iranians, they're not your standard Middle Eastern people. They're Persian, completely different.
No, they used to be.
Yeah.
They still see themselves as Persians.
Some
No,
of
they
them
don't.
do. No, he's right. Some do. Some do.
They don't see themselves as Middle Eastern, or.
You know what you don't see though? No German claims Prussian heritage anymore. Why?
Because Prussia was.
They
dissolved.
weren't.
Why?
Prussians were from fucking Austria.
No, because Prussia's capital was Berlin.
Okay, look. I just committed cardinal sin. We tangented to death.
Yeah. Anyways, actually, no, we didn't tangent to death. We're gonna segue into what I want to talk about. Before you remember.
Fine. Yes. And it is a good one.
So what?
Where did I leave off?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. U.S. defense officials countered Russian claims that the attack was carried out by the U.S.-supplied HIMARS, and told Politico this week that according to satellite images, the site of the attack did not show any signs that a HIMARS was used. Duh. Another official reportedly assessed that the missile strike was not even ordered by Kyiv. Russia's accusation comes as Ukrainian forces have increasingly made gains in areas like Kherson with the help of the U.S. systems like HIMARS. So obviously every explosive, right, has a signature. Every weapon has a signature damage path. Like it's going to look a certain way, right? Like a grenade on the ground is going to look different than a mortar that hit the ground. Stuff like that. So
Yep.
yeah, I would say that it stands to reason that the satellite images showing the attack area could easily prove or disprove at least the type of weapon that was used. Not maybe specifics, but it'll be like a rocket doesn't do this. Stuff like that. Like a bomb does this, or a thermite planted charge, that was left there on a timer does it, something like that. No Israel Navy has second strike capability with Dolphin submarines. Clarify that in the chat, HVS. Like, type it out. We'll read it. We'll read it after we get to the next story. Because the next story follows off the tail of this one the day after. So Thursday, August 4th, yesterday, day 162. And that is a photo of said prison where all the people were burned to death. Does that look like a building that was hit by a rocket? Or multiple HIMARS? Because that thing is remarkably intact. And if you look at the roof panels, they look like they've been blown outward from the inside, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so Russia is attempting to fabricate evidence amid an investigation into an attack on a prison in Ukraine that left 53 dead and as many as 75 injured.
I'm really surprised by this. Because I'm not.
I'm not. U.S. intelligence officials determined Russia is attempting to shift blame for causing the attack by planting false evidence to suggest Ukrainian forces were responsible for the July 29th attack on the Olenivka prison. The U.S. official told the Associated Press. I got an AP story here. The prison is located in Donetsk, a separatist-governed and Russia-occupied area of eastern Ukraine. Both countries have claimed the other is responsible for the attack. The unidentified official said that the intelligence report on the prison shows Russia intends to plant evidence to suggest Ukraine was responsible, including ammunition that was captured from the U.S.-supplied medium-ranged HIMARS systems. So apparently, they've found, I guess, expended shells or casings, or maybe they captured actual unused ones, and they were going to grab them and just dump them unfired into this building. Look, there it is! It's like, that hasn't been fired yet, you idiot. It would be like, what's a good example? Do you guys remember a story about 9/11, about how a plane crashed into the building, and yet one of the terrorists on the plane, his wallet with his ID was left perfectly intact? You guys remember that?
That was a while ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think of it like this. Russia's trying to plant evidence to prove that U.S. munitions were involved. How are they going to do that? They're rockets. You fire them, they leave the weapon, they hit the building, they're gone. Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, you got me. I get what you're saying, but you got me.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could take pieces of the broken ones that are already expended and be like, look, it says U.S. right on this thing. Maybe. I don't know. Fuck it. Whatever. Let's see.
They're just poor Russian soldiers. They don't know any different.
Right. Yeah, they're just following orders.
That's what happens with conscripts.
That's just true. That's very true. They were just following orders because they didn't want to get shot by their COs, which is very Russians doing Russian things since 1943. So I think you're right.
No, before 1943, since the Bolsheviks took over.
Well, I figured the big one was Stalin.
1918.
1918.
Like we saw it in Enemy at the Gates, right? They shot their own. All right, anyway. The Ukrainian military subsequently denied making any rocket or artillery strikes on the prison. Ukrainian intelligence officials claimed to have evidence that Kremlin-backed separatists colluded with the Russian Federal Security Service, FSB. The KGB's main successor agency to attack the prison. The prisoners at the Olenivka prison included Ukrainian POWs who survived the Russian siege on the Azovstal steel mill in Mariupol. Remember those guys? Remember the ones that were trapped underground and then, like, they were told that they will be treated fairly and imprisoned until the war was over, so they very willingly came out? They're all dead now. Shocker. Ukrainian soldiers who were forced to surrender and taken captive by Russia are often imprisoned in Russia-controlled systems. You don't say. The U.S. intelligence report comes as the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres appointed a fact-finding mission to investigate the killings at the prison. The inquiry came after both Russia and Ukraine requested the UN to investigate the July 29th attack. You are not going to find shit, because it's already over. They buried it, they ruined it, they tarnished the whole area. Good luck. We know what they did. Everyone knows what they did. Ray Charles can see that building was blown from the inside out. Anyway. And he's dead.
He was also blind.
And he was, exactly. That's the part of the joke.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Patriot in the Dark saw what you did there.
Oh, let me read HVS's comments since he clarified. Dolphin subs can launch Popeye cruise missiles. Intermediate range cruise missiles can carry a nuclear warhead. They could hit Moscow with those if they could penetrate Russian air defenses, which is hard to do. Yeah, S-400s are incredible air defenses. Like, super incredible.
They are, no doubt.
All right, moving on. Dnieper. Look at that doggo. Anyway, fighting along Ukraine's Dnieper River continues to escalate as Russia responds to Ukrainian advances by ramping up its shelling offenses in southern cities. Russian forces overnight conducted 2 attacks on the city of Nikopol, located on the right bank of the strategically important river, raining down over 60 shells onto the city's electric infrastructure and private housing, regional officials said Thursday. The BM-21 Grad multiple rocket launch system was reportedly used in the shelling campaign, though no civilians are believed to have been killed in the strikes, with a Y. The Grad fired jet systems destroyed 27 private buildings. Dozens of houses were damaged, 2 private cars destroyed. Damaged gas and the power grid, damaged buildings and equipment of 3 local businesses, and over 100 solar panels. Oh, got to get some Green New Deal in there.
Oh no, not the solar panels.
Yeah, that was confirmed by Ukraine's Operational Command South in a social media update. The command warned Thursday that Ukrainian forces made some advances in southern Ukraine. Russian shelling is expected to increase. The situation in the operation zone of the south is complex and dynamic in development, but the defense forces are keeping it under control, Commander says. The enemy has no changes in the composition and position and holds the fortified boundary of defense. Word salad. The attack comes as Ukrainian troops attempt to repel Russia from the Kherson region, roughly 130 miles south of Nikopol. Over the last week, Ukrainian forces have made some advances in the Kherson region by destroying several logistical routes that Russian forces relied on to connect their supply lines over the Dnieper River with the Crimean Peninsula. The UK Defense Ministry has assessed that Russia is relying on at least 2 vulnerable ferry crossings now to transport its logistical needs across the river after the Antonovsky Bridge and rail line were damaged by Ukrainian forces with U.S. HIMARS systems. I want a sidebar so bad right now. I'll get to it in a second. The Defense Ministry said Thursday it believes Russian forces are now using pyramidal radar deflectors to protect themselves against Western rocket systems. The radar reflectors are likely being used to hide the bridge from synthetic aperture radar imagery and possible missile targeting equipment, the ministry said in an intelligence update. This highlights the threat Russia feels from the increased range and precision of Western-supplied weapons. Ukraine's Southern Operational Command said Russia is relying on land-based artillery and coastal missile systems to hit civilian and military targets in Ukraine. Ukraine has begun to make some advances against Russia's military with the aid of Western-supplied artillery systems like HIMARS. However, officials have warned these systems are not enough to effectively engage with Russia and cannot reach Russian forces firing upon Ukraine from the Black Sea. Okay, so I want to have a sidebar here because you're going to love this, okay? I came up with this idea as I read this story out loud. And I think you're going to love this. This solves so many problems. Russia's using countermeasures to prevent radar imagery and missile targeting equipment from hitting pontoon bridges across the Dnieper River. Correct?
How much is that costing them?
Well, I think I have a solution that's not going to cost squat. So they're doing that. The Dnieper River obviously is not shallow nor narrow, so it's a pretty wide river. Instead of wasting munitions on it, I think I might have a solution. And the best thing is the Russians can't accuse us of arming Ukraine. You're going to love this. Every year in the Mississippi Delta and most of Louisiana, they have to cull herds of crocodiles. Thousands of them. They farm them, they kill them, they eat them, they whatever. They have to control the population, right? Why don't we just, I don't know, capture about 10,000 of them, put them on a C-130, let them get real hungry, and just drop them in the Dnieper River. And just sit back and watch the show.
I think the Dnieper River is freshwater, not saltwater.
Most
Alligators
of Louisiana
it's brackish.
Is freshwater bayou.
Yeah, but you
brackish.
said crocodiles. You didn't say alligator.
Fine, both. Doesn't matter. Point is, we solve a problem of overpopulation of alligators and crocodiles. They're going to get very hungry, and the only thing we're going to feed them is packets of blood, human blood, so they get a real taste for it. And we just drop them in the Dnieper River.
Oh, there's two problems with that.
Yeah, I know. They would want to put them at the Mexico border on the Rio Grande first, right?
Nope. One, the Dnieper River is probably pretty fucking cold.
They're cold-blooded animals.
Yes. Which means they're not going to do well in cold water.
But it's not cold now.
That water's probably 40 fucking degrees, I bet you.
Oh, now I have to find out.
I'm just a killjoy.
No.
And here's the problem.
Temperature
a
around
C-130 getting even close to that river is fucking impossible because they're going to shoot it down.
What's the town that I got to look up the town. 77 fucking degrees, Scott. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And you're right. You don't have to put them right there at the bridge. Put them 10 miles upriver.
So they eat civilians in the meantime.
Well, Zelensky's telling everyone to leave the area.
And are they, though?
I'll tell you what. If
I was there.
Wait a minute. No. If I was President Zelensky and I had to do a nightly address, I would say, you need to leave immediately. We're about to drop 10,000 hungry crocodiles into the river. We're not responsible for what happens to you next. They're gonna get the message. It's all a joke. I mean, we're not gonna really do it, but besides, piranhas are smaller.
Because it would never work.
Well, no, piranhas are smaller and much bigger assholes anyway. It would work. It would so work. One drunken Slav on one of those little pontoon bridges just, has to take a leak, and it turns into Lake fucking Placid when he falls in the water. Come on.
You know what would work even better?
Sharktopus?
No.
Go.
Take 55-gallon drums.
Yes.
Put a freaking crap ton of explosives in them.
No, see, that's arming and
float them down the river.
Okay, I like the way you're thinking.
So when they hit that pontoon bridge, you push the little button and pontoon bridge goes boom.
I like the way you think, because you can even set it up like that Vietnamese river thing where they put little boats with candles on them. That would be funny. No, I still want to use alligators. Because we got too many. We got to get rid of some here. And we just put them to use. We employ them. Come on, it'd be hilarious. Lake Placid on the Dnieper River? That's like...
No. If you wanted to do something crazy like that, you
Ian
round up
Ziering
a bunch
would
of
make a
fucking
movie out of it.
rabid Aaron liberals and airdrop those onto the pontoon bridges.
Can't do it.
Why?
Can't do it. Because they all have... Because they and all the Hollywood elites that are outraged by oh shit, I forgot her name because she's already imprisoned.
Oh, the black basketball
Brittany
player who
Griner.
smoked pot.
Yeah, see, they all have to fly to Moscow and protest in front of the prison. I've already
That works too.
I've already sentenced them to that. I'm like, hey, why don't y'all go put your money where your mouth is and go protest in Moscow? Don't
There's
bitch about it
plenty
on
of them.
social media.
We'll
Take your
just
ass
round
over
them up
there.
from a couple fucking cities.
Well, no, I'm like, put your money where your mouth is. Take your
Hell,
ass over there.
California could supply all the ones we need.
Yeah, like just don't be outraged on social media. Take your ass to Moscow and take it straight to the source. Go see
And you
how
could
well
lure
that
them
works.
onto the back of the C-130 with crack.
Just take it to a country
Oh, meth.
that doesn't have First
The meth
Amendment
heads will
protections.
willingly fucking go on the plane.
I think it'd be great. Anyway. Let's see. We made it to Friday. We made it to my last story, actually.
Which is surprising.
1 hour and 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 3 ships carrying more than 58,000 tons of corn have departed Ukrainian ports for Turkey on Friday under a UN-brokered deal aimed at distributing grain from the embattled country that has been trapped by Russia's military invasion. Ukraine is one of the world's main breadbaskets, and the stocks of grain stuck there were exacerbating a sharp rise of food prices and raising fears of global hunger. The departure of the ships comes after the first grain shipment since the start of the war left earlier this week. It crossed the Black Sea under the breakthrough wartime deal and passed inspection Wednesday in Istanbul, and then headed on to Lebanon. The ships that departed Friday from Ukraine, which Turkey's defense ministry says are headed to Turkey for inspection, are from among over a dozen bulk carriers and cargo ships that have been loaded with grain and stuck at the ports there since the start of Russia's invasion back in late February. Does grain keep that long sitting on a boat?
Who knows?
Asking for a friend. Anyway. When tens of thousands of tons of grains are now making their way out with these latest shipments, it is still a fraction of the 20 million tons of grain which Ukraine says are trapped in the country's silos and ports, and which must be shipped out in order to make space for this year's harvest. How is there a harvest this year if all the fields are being bombed and burned and shelled and run over by tanks and BMPs and Grads?
Lord if I know.
Anyway. Under the July 22nd deal brokered by the UN and Turkey, which Russia and Ukraine signed off on, ships are allowed to leave ports of Odessa, Chernomorsk, and Yuzhny with grain, corn, and related food. Prices for grains peaked in the first weeks after Russia's invasion, but some have come down since to their pre-war levels. Corn prices are running around 70% above the levels seen at the end of February 2020 before the pandemic, according to Jonathan Haynes, senior analyst and data and analytics firm Grow Intelligence. He said wheat prices are currently 63% above the level seen at the end of February this year when the invasion was first launched. The 3 ships that left Ukrainian ports are the Turkish flag Polar Net, which I believe is that one, carrying 12,000 tons of corn, which left the Chornomorsk port bound for Karasu, Turkey. The Panama-flagged Navistar, which was I think the other picture that I did earlier, left Odessa's port for Ireland with 33,000 tons of corn. The Maltese-flagged Rozhin left Chernomorsk for the United Kingdom, carrying over 13,000 tons of corn, according to the United Nations. I have a question. My bias in the war room tends to lean towards Ukraine. And it's because Ukraine didn't ask for this fight. They're on the defensive since day one. And they've been screwed by NATO for 8 years. There's no two ways about it. They got fucked by NATO for 8 years. They wanted to join in 2014. And NATO said, okay, but you have to disarm the rest of your nuclear arsenal, including the stuff that the Russians left behind. And Ukraine said, but that would leave us defenseless. And NATO says, don't worry, we'll protect you. Go ahead and do it. So Ukraine reluctantly disarmed, and within a couple of weeks Russia invaded and took over Crimea. Good job, NATO.
Yeah.
Then afterwards, Russia's been building forces up for over a year around the borders of Ukraine, and Ukraine says, hey, we're still trying to get into NATO, and now we have no way to defend ourselves with a nuclear deterrent. Can we kind of get this thing moving along? We've been applying for 8 years, and they're building up troops along the border. And because Russia sort of shows up at NATO meetings, NATO says, ooh, yeah, we're going to have to get back to you on that. And then what happened? Russia invades NATO. Or, sorry, Russia invades Ukraine. And then you have Sweden and Finland looking over going,
That's us next.
That could be us next. Can we join NATO? I know we've been resisting for the last, 60 years, but I think we're going to kind of get with the times. We want to be part of your boys club. 4 weeks after they asked that, they were admitted into NATO.
They got money.
Ukraine still hasn't been admitted to NATO. And they're the ones under attack. And now you know I have a bit of a bias towards the Ukrainians. But I want to be a little fair. I want to have a little bit of parity here. Corn and grain leave Ukraine for Ukraine to profit billions of dollars from these exports. Could we maybe let a couple of containers leave Russia that come from Zenitco? Is that asking too much?
It might be just a little.
Just, can I just get some stuff for my RPK? Would that be cool? I mean, it's only fair, right? You're letting all this grain come out. You got to do it on both sides or you're not being fair. Just saying. I don't want to spend $1,500 on something that I could have got for $500 before this bullshit all started. Just saying. I think Scott would like some more of that stuff too. And if you didn't always think like a Moldovan, you'd probably do it to your AKs too. See what I did? See what I did there?
See, my AK, I've only got one right now. But my
who's
AK
the one who's got the full Zenko furniture?
Is an original East German furniture. Okay, I'm not swapping out for some Zenko bullshit when I've got East German Comblock furniture.
Actually, no, I do have one that's fully outfitted too, but it's not really an AK, is it?
No,
it's KP9, but
yeah.
It's got all the stuff on it though. Like I still like it. I'm looking at it right now. It looks so cute up on the wall.
Yeah, but you got the old Zenko, which is the heavy shit.
What do you mean old?
You don't have the sport.
No,
Zenko.
but I'm not.
Which is the newer stuff, which is lighter.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not some noodly armed little weakling either.
Yeah, you don't have a camo tracksuit.
I don't have a camo tracksuit. I'll give you that.
You don't even have an Adidas tracksuit.
No,
I don't have one either.
I have the full. I have the full Spetsnaz Oman winter gear. I do have.
You got the homo gear?
Yeah. But I got the sober patches for it. Anyway, actually, you know what else I got for it? I've got a full set of Ukrainian patches too, because apparently they use a similar camo pattern. So it's this winter I can wear it, hopefully, if we get hit with a bomb cyclone. Anyway, that's all the stories I have. But I know, Mike, you wanted to come up with this. You wanted to talk a bit about the Far East.
Well, I want to talk about Asia more specifically.
Far East.
Because remember the other day Pelosi said she was going to go over to the Taiwan, and she did.
Mm-hmm.
She did.
Mm-hmm.
But China was huffing and hawing, saying they'll take action.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is they're going through a mortgage crisis over there in their country. That's why they mobilized a lot of their tanks and APCs to try and corral the protesters, because they're protesting mortgages for houses that never been built.
Yes.
And they're clamping down on the news, saying don't tell anybody about this. This is not their problem. But the news gets out anyways. Funny how that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so they diverted some of those APCs and tanks to the beaches of was it Hong Kong, so that they could protest Pelosi's visit to Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
And then after she leaves, they decide to send planes over, and then they decide to fire two missiles
Mm-hmm.
over Taiwan. And correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, but those missiles landed in Japanese waters.
A couple of them did, yes. There was, I think it was 12. It was either 12 or 15 missiles landed in the waters on the northeast corner of Taiwan. There was 7 or 8 on the northwest corner. There was, I think, 7 or 8 on the southeast corner and about 4 on the southwest corner.
Right.
And 2 of them veered off into Japanese international waters, and they were a bit pissed when they heard
And
that.
Japan was pissed off and said, pretty much, this is how Japan is. We have to deal with a rocket man all the time. Now you're firing missiles and rockets at us too? What
Mm-hmm.
the hell?
Mm-hmm. The thing about North Korea's missiles, though, is they don't actually penetrate international waters. They land
Well,
just short.
Well,
The
they have a
Chinese ones
problem.
landed in their water.
Well,
Yeah, that's gonna kind of
North
piss
Korea.
Japan off.
They have not only do they have a penetration problem, but they also have a hard time keeping them up too.
Yes.
So,
God, straight to the puns.
anyways, but it's remarkable how the Chinese said, "Oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that." It's like I was really hoping that they would have, made good on a threat, and they really didn't.
I'll tell you why.
They're afraid. Right now with that mortgage crisis, they're actually really afraid what's going on, because if they don't fix that whole mortgage crisis thing, that can tank their economy really badly.
Maybe.
Well, let's put it this way: if everyone that bought houses that didn't get built, basically default on their mortgage, that means the bank has nothing to repossess.
Yes.
And that also means that the banks don't have any money or collateral to lend.
Yes, but this is a country that's communist, and in the communist country, if things don't go their way, they just simply say it never existed in the first place. They just write it off.
Unfortunately,
Because the
that's
government
not how
won't let them fail. Their government won't let them fail. They'll execute them first.
they're not going to execute. At this point, they're looking at possibly bailing out the banks.
Okay.
But again, it's a serious situation that's going on over there, and
Yeah.
they decided that they would, add gasoline to the fire by taunting Pelosi in the United States, and I don't think that's a good idea.
Well, okay, so I don't think their taunts were bravado.
Justified?
No, I don't think they were bravado. I think they were legit. I really do.
Okay.
So before we close out the show, what I did want to mention, because when you brought this up before we went on air, I think what I meant to tell you is still relevant. Um, my goal with the War Room was to cover what I thought was going to be a military incursion into Ukraine, where NATO would get off their dead, useless ass and put an end to this quickly. It has become painfully apparent that they don't
That
give
ain't
a
happening.
fuck. They just don't. Which is going to create generations of animosity towards the West. The same thing happened with Iraq. The same thing happened with Iran. The same thing just happened in Afghanistan. We have created, well, not individually, collectively, we have created a giant case of animosity towards the West. Ukrainian people are going to hate us eventually because we didn't step in and put an end to this, and they had to suffer for months, maybe years, and we could have put an end to this. We, as in the rest of the world, not just us. But yeah, originally when we started the War Room, I didn't think that we would still be talking about this in August. I really thought this would have been something that NATO would have installed a no-fly zone, and
No one thought. That's the thing. It's not just you. Everyone
well,
thought that it'd be
most of the
okay.
people who didn't think this was going to happen have nefarious reason behind that. They really thought Ukraine was going to collapse in 72 hours. They thought these guys aren't going to do shit. And
that's because the Russian intelligence agencies are corrupt as fuck.
well, I know, but what I'm saying is like the West even thought that this was going to be over in 72 hours. They're like, no, they can't handle this. They're going to get wiped out, and we'll just have to deal with whoever's left. That's how it works. That's how diplomacy in the Western world works. It's a ugly thing, but it's the reality of it. They underestimated the resilience of those people. And I thought by now we would really be talking about the actual threat in the world, which is China attacking. It's basically the Cold War again. It's communism creeping over, you know, non-communist countries and trying to bring it back, bring it all back. I really thought that we would be talking about Asia and China and that situation a lot more than we are. And
No,
then
I get it. I get it.
And when China made their threat, I took it very seriously. I thought, if Nancy Pelosi flies over Taiwan, we will shoot it down with a missile as a statement.
You know,
that was a great threat.
I was crossing my fingers at China's statement.
It's only a deterrent if they think you're actually going to do it.
Well,
but
here's
unfortunately,
the thing,
China doesn't follow through.
No, but here's the thing. Two things worked against them. They make the threat, and she called their bluff. Right? She still went. They didn't shoot her down. Now, I jokingly took a ban for 24 hours because when that story first broke, I said, if they shoot her down, where do I send the thank you card? Signed
the ashes of Beijing.
Signed the United States, right? Thank you. But
if they had shot her plane down, it would have been World War III.
Right, but see, that's the whole point. They made the threat as if they were willing to take that risk. And I took it seriously, but I'm going to end the show on a pun because I've been trying to do it for the last 5 minutes and you guys wouldn't let me because you guys are taking this way too seriously.
Because we don't want to talk about it.
The reason that they couldn't shoot the plane down was obvious. It's because their targeting system was made in China. Oh! And with that, I'm going to play this song because we went an hour and a half and I didn't want to go an hour and a half.
I told you.
That wasn't even that good of a joke.
Jesus. Because the joke was made in China, Scott. Anyway.
That's even worse.
I know. It's just going to get worse, dude. It's like projectile vomit. Anyway, if you're new to my channel, welcome. But if you're a regular here, welcome back. Either way, check out my other playlists. See if my other interests might be of interest to you. I want to thank all you out there in the chat. HVS, you were stellar today with the commentary. As always.
He was. Great puns.
You were great for that. Anyway, this was the War Room. We will be back next week. Hopefully I'll be more serious. I wanted to relax a little. Thanks for watching. Slava Ukraini, and we'll see you next week.